Welcome back, Focus Learners, to another edition of The Explainer. So glad you're joining us today because, well, we are tackling a massive, deeply frustrating issue in the digital economy right now. Get this. Every single day, humanity generates roughly 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. Think about that. That is a staggering number. It's enough data to fill billions of hard drives, and it's literally the fuel for everything from the targeted ads you see to the absolute newest generative AI models. But here is the dirty little secret the current ecosystem relies on. Almost all of that incredibly valuable data, it's built on the back of completely unpaid digital labor, right? Today, we're exploring a structural, totally groundbreaking solution that's trying to fix this. We are unpacking Codatta. It's a platform built around two huge concepts: sovereign data ownership and on-chain royalties. Honestly, if you've ever spent hours organizing info online, what we're about to cover is going to fundamentally change how you view the value of your own time and effort.
I really want you to picture a very specific scenario for a second. Just imagine you've been sitting at your desk for days, right? Doing the incredibly tedious work of labeling bounding boxes on 5,000 individual images, all to help train some new autonomous driving AI. You spend these grueling weeks formatting everything perfectly, ripping out duplicates, verifying every single entry. I mean, you are literally building the foundation for a multi-million-dollar product. And then a major tech company swoops in and buys access to that pristine data set you just broke your back building. At first, you're excited. You're thinking, wow, my work is actually highly valuable. But then reality hits you. The company that sold the data set makes an absolute fortune. And you don't see a single dime. Your hard digital labor, all that sweat equity you poured into making raw data usable, goes completely unrewarded. So what happens when a company buys your data in today's world? Usually, absolutely nothing happens for you.
So that brings us to Section 1, the data worker's dilemma. 3 months of cleaning and 0 dimes. To really understand the sheer magnitude of the shift we're talking about here, we have to contrast how things have always been done with what is actually possible now. In the old system, large data aggregators sit squarely between your raw labor and the final buyer. They're acting as these ultimate gatekeepers. They hoard the data, and honestly, more importantly, they alone decide if you're even worth paying. And hey, if you do get lucky enough to be contracted, you're waiting around for months hoping for a check, with literally zero visibility into how much profit your specific data is generating for them. It's a completely opaque black box. But Codatta completely flips his entrenched power dynamic on its head. In their structural model, the middleman is just entirely removed from the whole equation, literally gone. Instead, everything you do is recorded on-chain, perfectly and permanently tracked, and payouts are handled instantly and automatically. It totally removes the need for permission and replaces it with guaranteed structural fairness. Which leads us straight into Section 2, the Codatta solution, guaranteeing provenance and payouts. And Section 3, ownership as a real thing, unbreakable on-chain provenance. What's really interesting to note here is how Codatta turns the abstract concept of data ownership into a tangible, totally unbreakable digital reality.
Okay, let's unpack exactly how this mechanism actually functions chronologically, because honestly, this is where the real magic happens. We hear the word provenance thrown around a ton in tech, right? But here, it simply means having an absolute permanent digital record of who created what. So step 1 in this ecosystem, you contribute by either submitting raw data or annotating existing stuff. The very second you hit submit, boom, we move to step 2. You are instantly minted a permanent ownership stake. It's kind of like being handed a permanent, unbreakable digital deed to a tiny piece of virtual real estate. A fractional slice of that entire data set is locked directly in your digital wallet. Now consider step 3. Let's say you come back a week later and decide, hey, I'm going to add more annotations, or you clean up some messy entries that someone else left behind. Just like adding a really valuable extension to a physical house, your ownership stake actually grows dynamically to reflect that new labor. And finally, step 4, your name stays on it forever. Because all of this is recorded on chain, your provenance cannot be broken, it can't be altered, and it definitely can't be erased by some massive corporate entity. It is a permanent digital receipt of your hard work.
Moving right along to Section 4, 2 ways to make money: sweat equity versus staked capital.
So you can actually approach this new ecosystem by stepping into one of 2 distinct, highly complementary personas. First up, you might enter as a contributor. This is very much the sweat equity side of the equation. If you're someone who has the time and the expertise, but, maybe not a massive amount of liquid cash to invest right now, you earn your ownership by doing the literal foundational work. You're out there submitting the raw data, annotating images, cleaning up text files, and drastically improving the overall quality of the data set. But hey, what if you don't have the hours in the day to sit and clean data, but you do have capital that you want to put to work? Well, then you step in as a backer. Backers stake their capital into specific data sets that they believe have incredibly high market potential. In return, they collect royalty yields whenever an AI company or a researcher accesses or licenses that specific data. What's absolutely brilliant here is the symbiotic relationship. Contributors need backers to provide the liquidity that actually scales the platform, and backers desperately need contributors to create the high-quality data that generates those yields. It forms this perfect closed-loop economic engine.
Now for Section 5, unfakeable public math. Trusting the code, not a middleman.
Now, I know what you're thinking. A naturally skeptical person might be asking, okay, but how do I know this new system isn't just going to cheat me the exact same way the old middleman did? And that perfectly brings us to the technical backbone of this whole operation, snapshot hashes and Merkle proofs. Okay, I know those sound like deeply intimidating pieces of cryptographic jargon, but let's demystify them a bit. At their core, these concepts simply represent public math. Just imagine a giant, entirely transparent ledger hovering up in the sky that absolutely anyone can look at any time with a magnifying glass. That is essentially what these proofs are doing. Codatta uses this transparent public math to ensure that every single time a royalty is paid out, it is 100% verifiable and completely unfakeable. You don't have to blindly trust some corporate accountant who might have a huge incentive to hide profits. You can literally just check the math yourself. And because the math is public, it guarantees this totally trustless environment where absolutely no one is behind the scenes cooking the books.
So everything we've explored today really just boils down into two simple, incredibly empowering guarantees that basically rewrite the rules of digital labor. First, you own what you build. Full stop. Your fractional slice, that digital deed we talked about, is locked to your wallet forever. Literally, no one can take it away or claim they did the work you did. And second, you get paid when it's used. Every single time someone accesses or licenses that dataset to train their next big model, your stake automatically earns you money. Think back to that hypothetical image labeler we talked about earlier. Under this new model, the days of doing all the heavy lifting for zero reward, they're entirely over. There's no waiting around and there's no negotiating. Just verifiable, immediate on-chain royalties for your actual contribution. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. I really want you to deeply consider all the digital labor you've contributed to the internet over the years. Just think about it. Think about the intricate forms you've filled out, the complex databases you've helped organize for past employers, the endless tags and categories you've applied online just for fun. How much is your past data labor actually worth? Seriously, if you had a permanent ownership stake locked to your wallet for all of that past work, what would your daily royalty yields look like right now? It's kind of a staggering thought, right? And as Codatta shows us, it's a future that isn't just theoretical anymore. It's entirely possible to build right now. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this breakdown. Keep learning, and I will see you in the next explainer.